Hey guys, in my first video I said that I am making a meme tempest shield ignite build, but and I said that I'm not gonna be making like day 2 or 3 update until I finish the build, but the build took a bit different turn and it's actually now very viable and very satisfying build. So I wanted to give you like a quick idea of what the build is in the current state, and also give you just like a quick, not really a full build guide video, but quick what you need for this to work. Arc and Vaal Arc feels so amazing. You shift into Scourge, you shoot Vaal Arc, everything dies, you shift back in, you still got plenty of blood left, you just 1 second later you fill up souls again for Vaal Arc, you shift back in and just keep doing that until eventually you get hit once and die because you stack too many stacks. But I am still building and I am very much enjoying this kind of slow progression. I am still on a falling, not in a hurry. I finally got a 6 link. I'm gonna talk about that in a moment. Also tell you about some experimentations, what we discovered with the help of chat. So I'm really enjoying this kind of slow progression. I didn't really have a very fully prepared plan. I just kind of knew what kind of direction I want to take with this build, and I'm really enjoying this kind of slow progression, making changing one item at a time. Not like normally when you fully plan the build, you reach like level 70, 72, you can put on all the items that you planned for the build and just kind of breeze through maps and not really upgrade all that much. But this time it's just very slow progression, figuring out what kind of items I want to upgrade next, and not really worrying too much about the viability of the build, because the single target damage right now is pretty bad because, like I said, I only have a falling, and my main biggest ignite damage for single target is currently tempest shield, which does require me to block. So I am almost scared block right now. I also need to be able to survive quite well, so I did invest almost like 2 exals into buying the Surrenderer shield, which may not be better than I believe Shaper's shield, or whichever shield is that recovers percentage life on block up to 5%. But however, this shield has a lot of armor, and armor is pretty good, and also this has very high base block chance, 30% attack block chance, and spell block chance is basically almost all the spell block chance I'm getting from the tempest shield itself, which also does give me immunity to shocks, which is also very nice. Maybe I should just quickly mention the main things that you need for this to work if you are like starting the league or you just want to reroll. If you're playing SSF and you cannot get Stormfire Ring, you just go Elementalist, you pick Shaper of Flames. All damage can ignite and all damage will always ignite. So essentially you get 100% chance to ignite with all the damage. So that's all you need basically to start this. Until then you level like with Fireball, with whatever you like, with some kind of fire skill. I also took the Shaper of Storms so that my lightning damage also shocks enemies, and to my surprise I'm actually very consistently getting 50% shock on enemies, which means enemies take 50% increased damage. On bosses it's sometimes 40-45%, but I'm still on a falling, so yeah, that will be improved. Now Mahu sign helps a lot recover up to 30 flat life when you ignite an enemy, which I believe also works when you proliferate ignite. By the way, that's all you need for this to work, to be Elementalist or to have Stormfire Ring, which allows your lightning damage to ignite. But Elementalist can get more damage for ignites because all the damage can be used for ignite. So you can even get flat physical damage to spells, and that's still gonna increase your ignite damage. And you can actually scale that ignite damage with lighting damage, because if your base hit damage is lighting like arc, you can take lighting damage nodes to increase your ignite damage. Now a thing that I discovered, I wanted to be able to click as few buttons as possible. For Elementalist, when you go Elementalist, you want to figure out how you're gonna be applying exposure, because Mastermind of Discord is applying an extra minus 25% exposure. I decided to use this helmet. This is like a tier 2 helmet. The tier 1 is Archdemon Crown, which requires level 75, so I bought this at lower level. As you can see, this is absolute trash. mods. I still need to upgrade the helmet. I still need to upgrade pretty much all the items except like weapon. Yeah, and one ring, and pretty much everything else should be upgraded. So with this, I socketed Vaal Arc inside this helmet, and this allows my Vaal Arc to apply all the exposure, fire, cold, and lighting at the same time. And we tested that in PvP to make sure that it does lower all resistances, applies all the exposures at once, and not just one of the. Because on enemies it doesn't always show that it's vulnerable to fire, cold, lighting. It sometimes just shows vulnerable to fire, and that's it. But we tested that in PvP, and it does apply all the exposures. But it is weak exposure. It's only -10. So I thought I can use that. Then Elementalist is gonna add an additional 25, so that's instantly gonna be -35 on enemies. I also added combustion, which lowers enemy resistance even more, and I got flammability on hit ring. So when I hit with arc, it lowers enemy resistances by a ton. Now, in addition to that, because like I said, base exposure is 10%, I actually thought that I can use Elemental Mastery and get this one, the first line. Exposure you inflict applies at least -18% of affected resistances. I thought I can like increase the minimum, but it didn't actually work that way. Someone pointed out in the chat, and we did test that in PvP. I can actually even add some clips from the testing. Elementalist kind of overrides the minimum. The 18% minimum becomes pointless. So because Elementalist applies an extra 25% exposure, it overrides this one and it becomes useless. So I actually refunded that. But I could actually get from Fire Mastery, fire exposure you inflict applies an extra -5% of fire resistance. However, I don't have more Fire Masteries anywhere that I could reach very easily, so maybe I'll refund something. But right now I do like the recover 2% of life when you ignite a non-ignited enemy. That feels great for map clear. And also cover enemies in ash when they hit you, and they very often hit me. I did take the lighting mastery, which adds an extra chain, and for arc actually you can actually use arc quite well for single target, because it says 15% more damage for each remaining chain, and Vaal Arc chains 9 times. With this lighting mastery it chains 10 times, so I am getting up to 150% more damage with hits and ailments. If I hit the boss directly with the Vaal Arc. But it still is, I believe, a bit weaker than Tempest Shield, because Tempest Shield has a lot of base damage now. But Arc right now is more like a utility thing, but it also does enough damage for clearing. So Arc is linked with combustion. Cruelty, I'm still testing if cruelty is worth it or not, and then ignite proliferation. I haven't tried the barracks ring. I'm not sure how that would be, but when I use Vaal Arc, sometimes it just clears 2 screens away, sometimes even 3 screens away, and it feels so good when you shift into Scourge, click Vaal Arc, everything gets ignited, dies. 2 seconds later, you can recharge Vaal Arc and use it again. Now, ideally, I could try to corrupt this helmet, well, not this specifically helmet, but a helmet like that, and get like +1 to... Okay, either +2 from normal corruption, and then +1 to socketed intelligence gems to increase Vaal Arc level a bit more. Or I could use the influence Exalt Orb, and which one? I don't remember which influence was it that you can craft. Nearby enemies have -9 to fire resistance. So that would be a more expensive option. I may actually do that because I'm gonna be playing this build for a couple more days. I am really enjoying the slow progression, and just the satisfaction of the Vaal Arc and Ignite is so good. For the body armor, I wanted to get the Endurance Charge Generation body armor, ideally with +1 to socketed the skill gems, but I actually managed to 6 link. This body armor was kind of discardable. Like I threw it in, I crafted some mods, and if it breaks, whatever. And I actually managed to 6 link it, but not with this transformation thing. Actually, there's a trick. If you don't know, you probably already know how to get a 6 link quite easily, and it's probably the easiest way to get a 6 link now. You get a 4 link plus 2 link with the 6 socket, corrupt it, and then you use the Tainted Orb of Fusing. And what's gonna happen when you have 4 link and then another 2 sockets, it's gonna either add a link or remove a link. If it adds a link, it's gonna become a 5 link, and you're gonna use it again and hope that it 6 links. Basically, if it goes back to 4 link, you just keep using it until it's 6 links. If it goes back to only 3 link, then use the benchcraft to 4 link again, and then you just keep using that tainted fusing until you 6 link it. Oh, one last thing. I made a small mistake in the last video, very small mistake. It's like 1 million DPS mistake. Not a big deal, right? When I crafted the build, we didn't have up-to-date PUB, and I had to, well, I did modify Tempest Shield to be level 40, and then basically added another custom modifier to add more flare damage to match the new Tempest Shield. And after PUB got updated, I removed the custom modifiers, but I forgot to modify the Tempest Shield back to level 20. That was the mistake that I forgot to fix. However, I did not think that I will be able to shock for that much, so I actually can shock for quite a lot. So I don't know what the numbers are gonna be in the end, but I don't really care. And I'm not really going for the biggest numbers this time. I'm even going for the defensive stuff. I'm getting a recoup, also gonna be getting these nodes to reduce the curse effect on me, unless I can figure out something else. Even picked up these ones to increase my armor, and picked up the last mastery, 100% increased armor from equipped shield, since my shield does give over 1000 armor, which isn't that great, but I can still quality to 28 or even to 30%, which would give a bit more armor. So I currently have 4000 armor, and I can still upgrade some of my items, so I would probably end up with like 5k armor, maybe 6k armor in the end, which should be enough to be a decent, reasonable defensive layer. So yeah, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.